and we'll begin. Good evening. I'm Bob Fish, Genealogist General of the SAR, and this is Genealogy FAQ number 5. The purpose of Genealogy FAQ is to answer questions that are being asked by a number of people in the SAR. I hope I can respond to them in a good and timely fashion. And of course, as always, I'll show you how you can ask specific questions that you'd like to have answered. With the number of people on the line, we won't be able to answer the questions live, but I will answer them as we go ahead. So let me share my screen and let's get right into the work we're going to do. This is Genealogy FAQ number 5, appeals. Come on, baby. There you are. So thanks and welcome. Thanks for coming in tonight. Thanks for taking a bit of your time to talk about a variety of the genealogy subjects. I invited some of the most knowledgeable people about genealogy, and I hope that those of you who wish to invite somebody else have done so already. I have always invited the genealogy staff, the genealogy committee, all the state registrars and any chapter registrars whose names I have, asking the state registrars to go ahead and forward the forward the invitation to any chapter registrars. Liberty Award recipients, I continue to honor. You are the people who make this organization hum. You are the people who generate 2/3 of the new members we have each year. The meeting is being recorded. Let's see, at last count, we had about 50 people online and a few more coming in. For interest, the total number of people that we get on a call by the end is about 60 to 70. Some of the earlier ones had more people on the calls than the number of people that
I was released. I had to go down to the hospital.
Let's see. Well, any people that are unmuted will mute. Everybody is on mute. I was going to tell you that the number of people who have watched one of the sessions, either live or recorded, is now approaching 2,000. They're really a lot. It's just blowing me away with how many people have an interest in them. And of course, as I said at the first one, we'll continue to put these out as long as you're interested. If you have questions, email me, bob@bfish.org, and you will receive a reply. I'll get to them as quickly as I can, usually within a couple of days. Everyone's also invited to suggest topics for future sessions. If you have a topic, just send it again to that email address. Special announcement, extra. Last night, the Genealogy Committee set a date certain for SAR applications like we have with DAR applications. The date certain is 1/1/2012. SAR applications that are dated after that date will be accepted as proofs by the genealogy staff. And so that gives us a little bit of an assurance if you're working with late applications. Some of the earlier ones, you might ask why that date was set. Earlier ones still allow the use of family histories, which we found to be an unreliable source. And that was the year that we stopped accepting family histories. And it seems like a good way to do it. The SAR application may be reviewed if it's supported by a pre 1/1/2012 SAR application or a 1/1/85 DAR application. If that's citation, then those parts of the application will be reviewed. And of course, it does not apply to flagged applications if they're flagged in the either the DAR or SAR system. This is the SAR Genealogy Policy Manual. It was last updated at 1 June of 2021, and I'm sure that a change will be coming out to reflect the actions of last night's meeting. But for tonight, if you don't have the genealogy policies, and I'd certainly recommend that everybody who's filing applications have a copy and have read through them at once. At least you'll know what's in there and know where to look if you need to find the exact rules. Go to the SAR.org website and look under Genealogy Resources. It's under the Genealogy tab, Genealogy Resources, and you'll find it. And for the policies on appeals, 6.6000 through 6.6005 covers most of the things I'm going to talk about tonight. So what is an appeal? An appeal is a request by an applicant for a second review of an item on the application. So somebody said I was just kind of taking a real risk by having this this section, because I'll probably generate a lot more appeals coming in, and that's not my purpose. My purpose is hopefully to generate better applications that come on, but also to let people know what the aspects of an appeal can be, and so you know what to do. The best way to avoid an appeal is to work it out with the staff. The advantage of that is you can have some back and forth with them, and hopefully you'll bring them around to your point of view. But it's always important to try to define where you don't agree. Not just my application was pended, but why and what you don't agree with the genealogy staff on. On appeal, the genealogist general rules on the entire application, not just the point that was brought up. I've had several appeals that I've handled during the time since I've been genealogist general, where the result of the appeal was to find additional documentation on the patriot that he had presented, or to find a different patriot that the applicant could join on, and thereby avoid the appeal and make the appeal moot. So we're trying to help people join the SAR. That's my objective. I'm supposed to be in the application of approval business, and so I take that real seriously. There is another level to appeals, and that's an appeal from the decision of the genealogist general to the president general, and his ruling is final, bylaw number 9. Appeals are rare. I thought you might be interested in some statistics. Since Congress, July 2021, we have received about 3657 applications. And this is like mid last week. Since Congress, there have been about 439 of them pended. That's 12%. There have only been 8 appeals to the genealogist general, 0.2% of those applications coming in, and no appeals to the president general. I'm kind of proud of this statistic because I think it represents the change from 439 to 8 represents people, for the most part, looking at the defect that was cited by the staff and saying, oh yeah, okay, I see what he means, and I'll provide that additional information or fix it up or do whatever's needed. That may go back a couple of times, but it's really amazing of how few of those 439 applications will eventually be dropped for no action on them. It's a very, very small number. And only 8 were appealed, meaning that the applicant and the genealogist could not agree on what was going on. Well, what can be appealed? And this may be of a bit of surprise, and so I'm going to talk about it. Any adverse ruling from the staff can be appealed. The first would be, then that's the most common, pending an application. You don't agree with the reason that the application was pended, and the genealogist feels strongly about it, and that might be a basis for an appeal. You can also appeal if the service of the patriot was, if a claimed service was denied, a particular name in the lineage anywhere was denied, or a proof of a date, place, or birth of date or place of birth, death, or marriage. Notice that this falls neatly into 2 categories. The first is the pending of an application. We all know that as soon as an application is pended, the genealogy staff will write your state point of contact a letter saying what was the matter, and that starts the process of getting that fixed. The other 3 probably you'd not find out about them until the record copy of the application was received, and you'd see what of the proofs were allowed and which ones were denied. And this can certainly say in the case of service of the patriot, if you had claimed military service for your patriot and patriotic service, that if the military service was denied, you may have a good reason that that should be changed. Also, names, in particular, the non bloodline spouse may have been denied, and you thought that proper proof was provided for it. Of course, dates and places are also important. These are important to get right in the application, because frequently they'll be the key to a future supplemental that you might submit, or that might be submitted by a new or supplemental application submitted by others. So and this is ruled in policy 6.600. Appeals are limited to correcting a perceived error by the staff genealogist, and they're not a vehicle to upgrade previously approved applications. For example, if you had claimed patriotic service because your patriot paid taxes, and you later discover that he had also served in the Army, you cannot use the appeals process as a vehicle to upgrade that application and have it put in with military service. The reason for this is that takes a lot of staff time, and it's almost every application could be upgraded in some way or another. It simply becomes very burdensome for the staff to respond to those, and so we decided a few years ago to disallow that. There's also a 6-month time limit from the time that the application was approved or pended in order to file your appeal. And so that also limits the time that it can be. And again, that's certainly workable for all of us. Who can appeal? Only the applicant may appeal. The appeal, though, requires the concurrence of the state point of contact, the state registrar, state genealogist, or the state president. And usually, if those of us that have been in the appeal business, know that the state registrar, genealogist, or point of contact will be the one to actually turn the documents in, but they must state in that the applicant has been consulted and wishes to appeal. And so we look for that when it's done. But so the applicant and one of the 4 persons listed have to be in concert. Having the concurrence one of the four below helps us to avoid having the applicants filing frivolous appeals that on inspection we know will not be approved. Well, let's say that you've decided that you want to appeal. What do? Send an email to the staff genealogist who was responsible for the application, and a CC to me stating that you wish to appeal. The state level occurrence needs to be in there, and you should call out in that what you're appealing and why. I'm appealing the assignment of patriotic service when I thought military service, and here's why I think my application should be approved, or should be, the appeal should be granted. The genealogist then will mail the whole packet to me. That's all of the proofs that came in with the application, and I will review the entire application. So I can perhaps pick up some issues the genealogist didn't see, or perhaps find some proofs that the genealogist had overlooked. I just want to take a couple of words here and say something about our staff. You know that they're really hard workers, and they have a lot of pressure to get through applications in a reasonable and quick time. And so there's some pressure on them to spend a measured amount of time, but not all day in reviewing your application. I, on the other hand, have all the time in the world because I'm a volunteer like you are, and I can spend all the time on an application that I think is needed. I will give an answer to you on a relatively fast time frame, assuming I don't have anything else coming up like Congress. You'll have a written opinion in about a week. During that week, I'm going to take a look at some of the parts of the application that maybe we can find a way around, or a way to get the application improved. For example, just a couple of weeks ago, I had an appeal. The staff genealogist was correct in pending the application because it didn't have one of the parent-child relationships properly defined. I located some church records that put with everything else in the application, proved that parent-child relationship, and I was able to both say the staff genealogist had done her work correctly, but on further review, it became moot because I could approve the application on finding new information. So that just gives you a view of what handling an appeal is like. It's not something that's just done quickly. It's done with a lot of thought, and I even consult the person who sent the appeal in, usually the state registrar or genealogist, and I consult the staff genealogist for their opinions about it too, and then do my own work. Well, this is not how we want to have appeals handled. You need to show your skill without raising your voice, and I hope that that we understand that pending an application is people doing the work that we've asked them to do, and if there's an appeal to be made, then that'll be made, and it's nothing personal, and ought to be handled on a calm basis. I have said for quite a while I've been working both in my career and also in the SAR, that reasonable people confronted by the same information will all come to the same conclusion. I think it was Voltaire that originally said that, but I think that it really applies here, that probably if you look at the application, if we're not coming to since I think all parties are reasonable, If we're not coming to the same conclusion, it probably means we don't have the same information, or at least the same viewpoint of it. And so if you'll explain your viewpoint to the genealogist, maybe they'll come around to your point of view, or you'll come around to theirs and understand that the information you'd presented had a flaw in it, or parts of it were not acceptable, or some other problem like that. So I present in this slide tips on having your appeal successfully granted, or tips on winning an appeal. It's water, not vodka. First of all, is follow the procedures. Look in the genealogy policies, and if you're thinking of filing an appeal, you certainly ought to look at the policies 6.000 to 6.600 and understand exactly what they are. And then review the genealogy policies that are, first of all, look at carefully defining the issue on which you disagree. As narrow as possible, you can define it and perhaps work it out with a genealogist. But review the genealogy policies that pertain to that issue. And don't include additional proofs that you've not discussed with the reviewing genealogist. You're probably going to put together your best shot at it, including, as I suggest in the next point, a proof argument that supports what you've done. But it needs to be, this isn't a gotcha. This ought to be shared with the genealogist. She should have a chance to look it over, and then decide that you still disagree and need to have an appeal on it. So that's pretty much it. You can submit appeals on just about anything that's not satisfactory in your record copy, and I'm ready to deal with them. I always like to remind us a couple things from last time. Submit DAR record copies only, correctly sized for your printer. If you are printing an 8.5 by 14 piece of paper, and you need to have a reduced size on it, or use 8.5 by 14 paper in your printer. Just in the last week, I got 2 pended applications that were pended for incorrectly sized, incorrectly printed DAR applications. These are state level errors, and we need to avoid them. Since I first started talking about state level errors, they have gone down by about 50%. Thank you very much for each of your attention to them, but there's still too many that are happening. Including all documentation. Again, this is easy to check. If it's listed on the back of the application form, it has to be included. And if it's not, you ought to find out why and have an explanation rather than just miss it. The documents that are submitted should be checked for being readable. If you can't read it, the staff probably can't read it either. Again, I think everyone's aware of the requirement put on us by the trustees to include the applicant's birth certificate showing sex as male. And this is an unfortunate thing of our time, but it is a requirement, and the staff is enforcing it on every application. So to wrap up, an appeal can be filed on any disputed fact on the application, requires concurrence of the state point of contact or registrar, et cetera. And there's a first level appeal that come to me as Genealogist General, and then a second level appeal to the President General. So I thank everyone for your participation. Again, if you have any questions, send them to me, bob@bfish.org. You will get a response. and future suggestions for future sessions are appreciated. What's coming up next time? Next is the NSSAR Annual Congress, 11 to 14 July in Savannah, Georgia. The next genealogical proof, the next genealogy FAQ will be constructing a genealogical proof using the genealogical proof standards. And I'm planning it now for 26 July of 2022. So this is genealogy FAQ number 5. I'm Bob Fish, the Genealogist General of the SAR, and I really thank everybody who was on the call tonight for listening. I thank you if you're listening to it on tape. Thanks for joining in. Good evening.
Thanks, Bob.
End of session.